Welcome back to another episode of Pillow Talk Podcast. Today, I have a very, very special guest that honestly I think is perfect for the theme of our podcast, which again is to bridge the gap between healthcare, entrepreneurship, mindset, culture, and creativity. And his name is Kevin Yee. He has a doctor of pharmacy. He's a pharmacist turned YouTuber, inbound sales strategist, and 10th planet jujitsu practitioner, whose mission is to give practical education to help entrepreneurial creators get paid doing what they love, which is so in line with the mission statement of like what we're trying to do here at Pillow Talk. But Kevin, great to have you here, man. We've known each other quite a bit, right? Clubhouse is where we met.
Yeah, Clubhouse. Like we've known each other in passing, but we never
Mhm.
really got to like talk to each other. So I'm like really excited just to get to know you a bit better, share some of the stories, share some of your stories too, and hopefully not get you canceled.
No,
Like
that's the goal. Wait, but I'm offended. How do we not know each other? We spent like nights staying up talking to each other in like these endless clubhouse rooms.
yeah, but Clubhouse, right? Like people are all talking, and I always like feel awkward. Like back in the day, I was like, dude, do I talk? Do I not talk? Do like I don't know the
Unmute,
order.
mute.
Yeah.
It was super weird back in the day. But
Yeah.
yeah, can you give us a little more background about yourself besides the little intro I gave you?
Dude, that was a pretty good intro, man. So if you're listening to this, basically, I wasn't the first YouTuber, like pharmacy YouTuber back in the day. I was probably like number 2 or 3. So I used to do YouTube. Oh, sorry, I used to be a pharmacist, got really burnt out, learned that I hated it. I was like, dude, I'm going through so much right now. My dad died. Like I got fired from my pharmacy job. I was like trying to pave this new path. And I was just like, screw it. I'm just gonna figure it out. And I ended up in this weird world of digital marketing, inbound sales, like strategy. These days I'm creating like 50K jujitsu packages, like agencies are reaching out to. It's like really cool. Like I feel super excited. And yeah, all these opportunities just opened up. So yeah, I don't know really what I do to be honest with you. Like it's like all these random skills, dude.
But
Yeah.
but I know and see and just going back to what you were saying about the YouTube stuff, you were one of the first YouTubers. Like if you literally look up like pharmacy school YouTube, if you Google that, immediately your videos pop up like the why you shouldn't do pharmacy school. I think that's the name of the title, but essentially you describe like why for these reasons you should not go to pharmacy school. But with that, like I know you were super burnt out when you were making those videos, and that's why you and for the life events that you just described, that's kind of why you wanted to, kind of like be the megaphone for like, hey, if you're trying to go to pharmacy school for these particular reasons, don't do it because you're gonna end up like me, burnt out, and then from there going all in on your passions and gaining skills. Exactly right, because you just said you don't even know what you actually do. You just have a bunch of skills that you exercise and execute on, right?
It's kind of funny. I look at that era as like the revenge era because I was like, man, like because prior to that, what people might not realize was like I was a very not whole, I would say wholesome, but I was a very like pro pharmacy channel, like, hey, you should do
Mm,
pharmacy and all this. But
mm,
like in the background, I was just like, man, like all of our friends are having these conversations, these hidden conversations that no one else is able to talk about.
right.
I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna leak all these conversations that we actually have behind the scenes and just like it wasn't out of spite or hate. It was just really like, hey, like if you're really considering pharmacy for these reasons, don't do it. And don't
Mhm,
get me wrong, I feel like pharmacy played a very important part of my life, but I lived out that purpose at that point in my life.
mm,
And so I don't know, I've been reading The Way of the Superior Man. It talks about purpose and leaving a stage of your life. And I just like, it's so funny, like that video where you're talking about like I said, like chase, like learn skills. I don't even say that anymore. I
what
always
do you
tell
say?
people, yeah, I tell people to chase memorable experiences because do that, you learn the skills, you meet really cool people, and those are the things that lead to a fulfilling life. Because
Mhm,
that's why I have all these like crazy stories I was telling you before the podcast too.
yeah.
So it's like pretty easy stuff.
And I'm guessing based on what you just said there, storytelling is a big part of what you do for inbound sales strategy, right? Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, it's even deeper than just storytelling because I feel like that's a buzzword these
It
days.
is.
Everybody's like,
It is a buzzword.
learn how to storytell, learn how to do this, open up with the hook. But I think really the reason why stories are so captivating is because it helps us like kind of in school, right? Do you remember like we learned about sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system, right? Yeah, the flight, and all that. But we don't realize like how that plays out into our real lives, right? In
Right.
conversations with our friends and stuff. And what I realized, like, especially when I was in pharmacy, I was always in like a survival state. And so what happens when you're in survival state, right? You fight, you flight, you freeze. So fighting, like, dude, I would work harder, work overtime, get super, super burnt out. I would freeze. I would just like, dude, I remember being on the couch and just like browsing through YouTube. So I was like, I don't want to work today because I was doing like, yeah, yeah. And then light was like, dude, me watching X-rated material that I won't like on the hub, right?
Right,
Like if
right.
you're in the know,
Mhm.
right? Things like that.
We
And
know.
I was like yeah, I was going through all of that, you know? But like stories, they activate this new exciting part of our brain, our prefrontal cortex, where it's like, dude, we can empathize with people. We're
Mhm.
interested in people. Like it sparks up this curiosity. And like what I realized, you're talking about inbound sales, right? Like when people are selling, they're always like pitching, pitching, pitching. I need to think about it. Why do you need to think about it? And then like they're triggering these survival states. And I'm like, this is not a good way to do it. It goes against the neuroscience of like what we learned in pharmacy school and science and all that. And so I just brought that to that world and it kind of changed. It's like changing that the whole culture of sales teams. It's really, really crazy.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, because when you think about it, because in recently in what I've been doing in the pharmacy profession, like I've been doing some biz dev, so a lot of sales oriented processes, and I've been noticing exactly what you were saying. Like it just when you story tell and you relate the whatever it is you're selling back to a problem that they're having and how you've gone through that same processes and how it helped you X Y Z, it just makes you so much more relatable as the person trying to provide a solution to a problem. And so and then off of that, like, I think that having a pharmacist background, it creates a different dynamic when you're selling. Like, I know you coming from a pharmacy background, how does that change the dynamic of when you're making a sale?
So interesting. I think like there's a lot of like tangential skills with pharmacy because dude, when I first hop on a sales floor, I sucked. I was so bad, dude. I almost got fired at my first
I
contract.
was reading
But
that. Yeah.
but here's the thing, like I learned really quickly. I mean, that's the that's the thing about accelerated 3-year program. You pick up really quickly.
Mhm,
And I learned like, okay, what are some tangential skills I can bring into this new field? And it was like learning how to read people's emotions.
mhm.
Like, how do you tactfully communicate a really tough situation? Like, hey, listen, I just pulled up your profile and it says that your doctor's shopping at these exes like
These
these
exes,
numerous these like different pharmacies for all these different narcotics and stuff. And it's
narcotics.
like, how do you communicate that? Right.
Mhm,
But it's like that experience in community pharmacy allowed me to like be a little bit more tactful for my communication. It only further got refined. And especially going through things like therapy too, I was able
mhm,
to like label people's emotions. For example,
mm,
someone's like, yeah, that sounds good, but can you send me some more information? Even though they're saying, yeah, I want to do it, you know something is off. There's that EQ from
yep,
community pharmacy. So
mhm.
you're able to label things like, hey, I just want to take a step back. It seems like there's a bit of hesitation. What's on your mind? Right? It's being able to have those soft skills. And you get that through community pharmacy,
I
a lot
agree.
of the times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially, I mean, like, when we're administering vaccines, people are a little hesitant, even though, their doctor told them or their insurance is encouraging, or even the head pharmacist is encouraging them, like, you being that person in that counseling room with them, able to, like, make them feel more at home, but really dig in deeper into their medication history or their vaccination history or just their what's going on in their life too, right? Sometimes it can just be something personal going on that you don't know about that's affecting how they feel about something going on right there at the pharmacy. Yeah, no, I agree. It ingrains in you the EQ required to get patients to where they need to be at their best health, right?
Yeah, and a lot of times, like, when we're asked consultation questions, right, there's
Mhm,
always a question behind the question, right? Have you ever had those moments where they're like, "Oh, shoot, what does this side effect do? Is this gonna blah, 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 blah?" And,
mhm,
like, the main cons like, we're not address you can like our first instinct is to go with facts, like just educate, educate, educate. But
Logic. Yep.
really, at the end of the day, what's the core reason? And so if you like what I learned in community pharmacy is like if I notice some hesitation, if I can read their like facial micro expressions, like like facial like
Ticks.
ticks, body language.
Body language.
Hey, yeah, you can just cut through all the BS. You can just be like, hey, it seems like there's an underlying concern here. What's on your mind? And then
Uh,
that's the beauty of it. Once they have the space, you're starting to build trust, and whatever you recommend, they're gonna, they're just gonna connect with you. And like, that's how people ask me, like, dude, how are your numbers so high and stuff? It's because one, I actually give a about, sorry if I'm swearing on your
no, no, you're okay.
podcast,
You're
but
okay. You're good. You're good.
I actually give a about my patients. I give a about like these people that are coming to me. They're trusting me.
Mhm.
Like, dude, like I have crazy stories where like, I took a care of patients who were end of their life, and then their spouse comes in and they're like, blah, 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 passed away. I just want to
Mhm.
thank you so much just for always making us feel special and stuff. They bring me gifts. Dude, that's why I love pharmacy. That's why I stuck people don't realize I was in like pharmacy for a long time.
How
And
long
I was
again?
like,
12 years, right?
dude, I worked in the pharmacy since I was 18. And then I quit pharmacy at around 30, right? After getting and dude, it was so crazy. Like, could I have gone back to pharmacy? Yeah, but I was
Yeah.
spinning my wheels. I even got the dream job. Like, I was I don't think too many people know this, but I got my dream job in pharmacy. And after everything happened, I was like, after my dad died, like the whole like my supervisor didn't like my YouTube channel, so they're trying to terminate me because of that stuff.
Wow.
Like, that's a hot take, by the way. But
Okay, gotcha.
yeah, yeah, like, dude, yeah, you can keep that. I don't care.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
whatever.
like,
Yeah.
dude, I was going through all that, right? And I got
Yeah.
my dream, like I had an opportunity for my dream job to be like advanced pharmacy practitioner or something like that, right? They were
Mhm.
gonna train me to do that. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. And
Mhm.
that's when I actually made the change.
What didn't feel right about it?
It's like that realization where it's like, dude, this is everything that I wanted. Like that, like to be out of retail, to be out of community, to
Right.
do something more clinical, right?
Yeah, practice at the top
Elevate
of
my
our license, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like, dude, this isn't what I want. I realized that. I don't know what told me that. I have a live stream. There's a live stream out there. I can't find. I don't know where it is, but there's a live stream right after my interview. I was
Right.
like, I don't feel like this is for me,
Wow.
right? And I had that realization on live stream. I think it's on IG, but it might be
Okay.
gone by now. But yeah, yeah,
Gotcha,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So it was just something very esoteric deep inside here, right? That like just told you this isn't for me. This is not the direction I want to be taking myself into. Was this around the same time that your father had passed away, right?
Yeah. We had
Th-
this like, yeah, one of the pleasure, like, I wouldn't call it a pleasure watching my dad die.
I mean, jeez.
I wouldn't call it like that, but
Yeah.
one of the things that really stuck with me, the memory I have with my father, one of my last conversations, because he was about to go into surgery. I didn't know if he would come out.
Mm.
And I was like, Dad, if you look back at your life, do you have any like regrets in your life? And I honestly, he said something like really whack, like, I don't know if I have any regrets, blah, blah, blah. But for a brief second, I looked at his eyes and you could just connect, like, and just see all the regret of all the things that he wished he did, but he never did.
Mm.
And that always stuck with me. It even sticks with me to this day. If I close my eyes, I can imagine it. I'm like, I don't want to be like him. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be bitter. I don't want to be jaded. I don't like the way that what pharmacy is turning me into. I felt
Mm.
like a dick all the time. I was like, it was bleeding into my personal relationships. It was affecting my health. I was
Mm.
like, I need to step away. It was probably like logically the dumbest thing that you do. Thank God I was like always super frugal. I was sleeping on like freaking Japanese futon the whole time. I was like, had roommates and stuff. I was like investing all my money back in the day, but I was like, you know
Mhm.
what? I feel like there's a bigger calling. I don't know what it is, but let's screw it. Let's figure it out. Like, I've always wanted to do this.
B
And here I am.
Dude, I think tell me I'm wrong. It took a lot of courage to follow that higher calling, right? Like, you knew that pharmacy wasn't everything and anything and everything that you could or couldn't be, right? You realized that there was something else you could do using your talents and passions, so that at the end of the day, when you pass on, when you're in you were in your dad's state, I'm guessing you would not be able to have the same look, a glimmer of regret in your own eyes, right? That's what you wanted to avoid.
You know what's really interesting? Like, looking back now,
Mhm.
you can be like, "Oh, yeah, that's courageous," but I felt like I was just so, like, burnt out. I was just, like, in
Mm,
such a survival mode that I was like, "Dude, we gotta
mhm.
figure something." And
Yeah.
I was in my flight mode, I was in my fight mode. But looking back, it was like, I realized, like, I couldn't put it in words, but I lived out that purpose in my life already, like pharmacy.
Mhm.
And I was like, I said what I needed to say in pharmacy. I said, like, I did, like, everything that I kind of wanted to. I got all the value. Like, of course, I can always get better and stuff, like, with
Yeah.
clinical practice and
Clinical
all that.
practice, always updated guidelines. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not, like, the skills that I want to really refine, and
Mm,
not more importantly, not the experiences that I wanted to have,
mm.
right?
So what were the experiences, like, looking back now, like, do you mind me asking how old are you now? Because you said you quit pharmacy when you were
35,
30. You're 35, so it's been 5
30.
years since
Yeah,
you 5 years since you quit pharmacy,
yeah.
I'm assuming you've been moving away from a lot of those pharmacy videos, right? So so
Oh,
then
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
s so then based on that now, you're 35 now, you were 30 then when you quit pharmacy, and you've been investing a lot of your time into obviously the, like, business side, the sales side, the inbound strategy, digital marketing. What would you tell your, let's say, 25, 30-year-old self now? Like, if you could do anything differently, or just what advice would you have?
Kinda interesting, like, because, like, in the moment, it really sucked. I was like, "Oh," I remember being like, in like, living in LA. I was
Mhm.
living in a YouTube house, and I was driving back and forth, like, from the pharmacy and stuff. I was like, "Dude, why couldn't I be like my friend Joe Jitsukawa and JK Phillips and just enjoy my life like
Enjoying your
him?"
life. Yeah.
Right? Like, it's like stuff like that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I would see this dichotomy of lives. I'd be like, "Man, this is a 9 to 5 life. This is the creator life." And it was
Yeah.
always in front of me.
Mm,
And when I think about the regrets, like, there are no regrets, like, for me because it led up to what I did. I think the thing I wish I would have done sooner, actually building up those relationships a lot sooner, being more like, not being so focused so much on investing in, like, the business, but, like, learning how to chopping up with people because all those things would have just happened regardless, right? I wanted things to happen so quick, but if I had the, like, really smart people, if I was taking more action, if I was actually outsourcing, like, learning how to build relationships with people and
mm,
outsourcing a lot of my work, it would have just increased my trajectory. I would have been, like, where I was, like, I am now, like, at, like, dude, fraction of the time, like,
mm,
2 years at least, especially with the YouTube channel. And that's why I run into a lot with, like, my fellow YouTuber, like, pharmacy YouTubers. They're
mhm,
always stuck like, "I wanna edit my own videos." I'm like, "Why the hell do you wanna do that?" Is that the best use of your time? They don't know, but it's that fear of, like, I don't have enough. They're in that survival state the whole time. I think
mm,
that's the thing I've learned how to master over the years is, like, learning how to tap in my executive state, learning how to, like, activate that more strategic, creative mindset so I can think more
mhm,
long term than short term.
mm. Yeah, so just understanding that what you're doing is an incredibly long game, and that you need to have patience for that. Because it sounds like you saying you were I mean, it sounds like we're both very ambitious people, but especially you transitioning out from pharmacy, you were trying to go all in on this dream of yours, right? And so you had a lot of drive to do it, but also at the same time, you probably felt maybe a little insecure or about delegating to other people, or you just had a sense of pride in wanting to do it yourself, right?
So, like, what's really interesting as I've been learning more about the neuroscience, it's like when we're in a survival state, we're always in a self-protective state. Like, for example,
Oh, yeah.
if if a tiger's gonna eat you, you're not gonna be like, "Oh, I wanna empathize with, like, Tigger the tiger," or whatever,
Yeah.
right? It's about to kill you, or somebody's cheating if you catch your girlfriend cheating on you,
Yeah.
dude, you're not gonna be like, "Oh, let's empathize with the" no, your first reaction is to
Just
fight, right?
fight. Yeah.
it's all short-term thinking. Like you assault your the cheater,
The
right?
cheater, yeah.
End up in jail, right?
Yeah.
If you have the time to think. But the problem is you can't think in those states, and
Mhm.
learning how to like, I think that's how I like taking notice of like the beliefs I've had, learning how to I can't speak, but like to physically control things like my breathing, to control my state. Jujitsu's taught me a lot about this, by the way. It's like learning these things, learning things like if I talk like this, I get really, really anxious all of a sudden,
Mm.
right? But if I learn how to control the pacing, pause, it changes the dynamic. You can de escalate situations all of a sudden. Those are the things I've learned. And I've learned to do that with myself. I learned how to label my own emotions. That's how I can label other people's emotions,
Mm.
right? But that's the thing because like the more you're like, like back in the day, I was like, Evan, just relax. I'm like, I'm trying to relax. I'm trying to relax, but that's a fight. Like we sink our heels
You're
deeper
fighting
in those
yourself.
situations. Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of like the one thing I wish I did sooner. Actually, was probably more the neuroscience, like the self care. I know everybody's like self care, and people are like, that's stupid and whatnot. Like that doesn't make any sense. But there's a lot of science that actually like backs that stuff up. It is crazy. Yeah. So I could talk more about it, but I'm sure you got an agenda
Oh,
for
no,
this.
no, not really, dude. We're just shooting the can, you know? No, this is really good stuff because I feel like, for instance, like again, the podcast is geared towards, like healthcare entrepreneurs or just people who are ambitious in healthcare or pharmacy specifically. I think a lot of us need to realize early on how to do things like control our breathing because that breathing just calms you down. It gives you yeah, it gives you control over the one domain that you can always control is your breathing, and it helps you remember that, hey, I'm alive, I'm here, I'm present in this moment. I have control over the domain of my body. I may not be able full control of my emotions, but if I can control my body, the emotions will come. I think what you were saying was incredibly true, like, coming with the EQ, developing the relationships and the self-care with your so the relationship with yourself, but then also with that comes the relationship with others because you understand yourself better and you're able to, what you just said, label your own emotions and therefore label other people's emotions, and so it comes with it. And then also reiterating that you said that you would love to develop relationships more. And based on that, you were saying, like, and I'm guessing networking or just investing more into your current relationships? What were you getting at there?
You know what? The one thing scratch that, scratch the relationship part because I'm always like really good at like I'm not gonna humble brag.
Yeah.
I've always been really good at relationships. I mean, that's
Yeah.
like I've always been really good at meeting people. I think when I say relationships, what I really mean is a relationship with myself because what
Mm,
I didn't realize the whole time, like in my 20s, and this is the first time I'm coming to like I've had a chance to like put my thoughts together
mm,
is like the belief patterns I have. Like how many times, like especially if you're in an Asian household, how many times are you told you're not good enough? Oh, money is tight. You need to like we have all these beliefs. You have to do everything by yourself. That's what school teaches us, right? But then like
absolutely.
when we jump into entrepreneurship, we like can I tell like a kind of ratchet story? Like this huge epiphany I had.
Go for it. Go for it.
So I live in Vegas these days.
Okay.
And basically, like, I'm with these like high level entrepreneurs. Like, this guy's hosting a podcast event, and it's like a podcast shoot event. Like, he invites everyone to come to him in Vegas.
Mm,
And like, I'm talking to these people that like the Hormozis and like Sean Cannell and all these different really, really cool people I would never get to meet. I'm not saying like the Hormozis or Sean Cannell was there. They weren't.
gotcha. Okay.
But
Wait,
they
wait.
weren't at they weren't at this event. But one of my buddies, like he was at the event, he was like, "Hey, do you guys wanna grab pizza?" I'm like, "I'm on keto. I don't really eat pizza, but like I'm down chill, like and meet these people." And these people are
Mhm.
running like 8-figure like businesses and they're selling off their businesses, they're going public, they're like pretty big entrepreneurs. Right? And guess where we end up?
Where?
The strip club. We end up at the freaking strip
Oh,
club.
this chicken strip
And
club.
here I see these married men. They have these rings on them. They disappear with these girls in the back. and
Oh
like
my
for
god.
like for like 2 hours, 3 hours. They have girlfriends. They have like wives.
Did
I'm
they
like,
did they take their girlfriends and their wives there with them?
no, they're not there.
Oh,
They're
okay, gotcha,
there
gotcha.
for that podcast, right? And I'm here. I'm like, dude, like this guy keeps on buying me lap dances. I'm like, stop. I really like get anxious because I'm like, oh, this feels so
That's
fake and
so
stuff. I'm like
weird,
sitting like a
yeah.
nun, dude. Yeah, I don't like those interactions. And
Yeah.
I have a good sales thing that I learned there, but I'll focus on this first.
Okay.
So as I was sitting there, I was like, what the fuck? Dude, these people are complete degenerates, like more degenerate than I am, right? How are they so successful?
Mm,
And I was like, oh, these they probably they probably hire people like me to do their work. And I started thinking about like pharmacy, like in pharmacy and stuff. I'm like, oh shoot, everybody in pharmacy, we're very similar. We're like pretty perfectionist. We did well in school, but like I look at the I've met like some of these other people in charge and I'm like, dude, they're degenerates. I'm like, wow. And it really made me think, like, it really made me question the beliefs and things that I had. And I realized not only at that strip club event, but when I went to Vanessa Lau's like mastermind,
mm.
how I can talk about how how I finessed my way in there.
Yeah.
But when I was there, I was like, everybody's so chill. This is the
Mm,
coolest group of people. Like, I've never felt like more connected with them. Some of them are like, we're super close friends these days.
that's
I'm
good.
like, wow, like, what's the difference between me and them? And it's like, oh, they leverage a team. They take the time for strategy, thinking time. They're not always so busy.
Mm,
And so that was like my journey to like start being like less hustle mode, like not so busy all the time. I actually have a lot I leave room for free space a lot of time just so I can strategize and
just have
turn on
time
that
to think.
time to think, time to turn on that executive state that we have, shut down the amygdala and start turning on that prefrontal cortex where we
Prefrontal
get our
cortex.
best ideas. Yeah. It's kind of
Mm.
funny. Like our best ideas come from like when we're showering, when we're driving, when we're like doing jack.
Dude, I was just talking about this exact topic in the last podcast with one of my coworkers, but he's also super into like fitness, biohacking, that kind of space. But we
Yeah.
were just talking about how like there's a reason, quote unquote, shower thoughts are a thing because we need time for us as humans with the prefrontal cortex fully developed. Like we need time for just quiet, no distractions, like phones off, no music in the shower, wherever that is, whether that's some people call it meditation, other people call
Yeah.
it, shower thoughts, but it's just time to give your brain space to intake everything that happened during the day or the week or process an event and all the emotions attached to it, but then also like process all the people involved and their emotions into it and process like how you're coming to terms with it. And then from there, how does that relate to like your overall goals? People, I think nowadays we're so
Yeah.
inundated with data constantly hitting us and content hitting us that we don't leave time for the imagination to spread and to strategize and to plan out overall in our life, right?
Yeah. And it's so funny because like we a lot of times as pharmacists, we overthink a lot. I know I used to overthink a lot,
Yeah.
right? I was stressed out all the time. But it's like different because like when you're because we're not aware of like the survival state, all the things that are triggering our survival state a lot of times.
Yeah.
It could be work, it could be your DM, your text from your boss telling you like, "Hey, you have a shift right now." I'm like, "What? I do?" It's like,
Yeah.
"Oh shoot." It's like, but it's also internal to our own belief patterns, right? Like I'm
Mm,
not good enough. So I believe that I always need to work harder to prove my self-worth. And it's like we don't take inventory of these things. And so we can never enter that state. And that's why like I actually had a chance to talk to one of my viewers. Like she's watched my channel for a long time and she's trying to make a transition. She's like, what do I do? What do I do? And I was like, that's a very survival state. In my head, I was like, that's a very survival state question. And typically when we're in survival state, we ask really bad questions.
mm,
And so I'm like, you know, I asked her, I was like, what would it like, assuming that you found your dream career and all that, what would some of the feelings that you would experience, it was more eloquently put, but it was like,
right.
what are some of the emotions or feelings that you're looking to get from a dream job? What would that look like? And then she like I don't remember what she said. I'm a bad listener. I didn't know it's like for like, I'll give myself for example, right? Like,
Mm,
oh, I would want something to be a little bit more creative. I would want something to be around based around continuous education.
mm,
And I would want something to be very relationship based, like very connected to people, right? And
dude,
that's why, like,
same.
yeah.
No.
And so, like, how I figured that out, like, the person found this really interesting was that I was looking at old pictures, right? I went through this exercise where you look through old pictures and you find common themes,
No.
themes of your most happiest moments, and remembering that. And so I would be like, oh, I used to play SNES all the time, Super Nintendo all the time. I used to like go to a park and chop it up with random kids. My mom would be like, how do you know these kids? I'm like, I don't know, right? Like, because I'm a kid, right?
Yeah, we're good,
And it's
right?
like, I would always go to the library and read books all the time. Like, I spent so much time in the library. I was, like, featured in, like, a newspaper when I was 10 for being at the library and reading or some crap like that. But it's like, oh, these common themes. And that's why I'm so attracted to YouTube. That's why I was kind of attracted to pharmacy. There wasn't a
Pharmacy,
full fit
right?
because there is a little bit of interaction. There
Mhm.
is a bit of, like, continuous education, although it's not the stuff I really wanna learn, to be honest with you,
Right, yeah,
right?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. But there wasn't too much creativity. There's ways I could be creative in the business arena, but
Mhm.
creativity, I felt very constricted. And I was like, "Oh, that's why I'm so unhappy with this career."
Well, that's the nature of our profession. Like, I 100% agree with everything you just said. I felt like I always got the part that attracted me most to pharmacy was
Mm,
having experience in independent pharmacy and seeing the community building aspect where he knew their parents, he knew their sons, their daughters, their brothers, what when they went on vacation, he would ask about their that kind of aspect where you're building that community, and you saw that through Clubhouse too, and that's why I have a podcast and everything. Like, I love that
yeah,
aspect of community building and relationship
yeah,
building, and which is why I said if I could go back and do a residency, I would 100% do either long-term care based, something like that, geriatrics, or ambulatory care, where you see patients
mm,
over and over again. But
yeah.
but I'm very happy with the trajectory I'm going now. There's a lot of room for growth. But the creativity part where you said that we just don't get a lot of room for that. It's just in the nature of our profession, right? Because we're constantly playing second, I don't wanna say second fiddle, but, like, we have to wait for the physician to make the first decision. They're the innovators, they're the ones taking the risk, whereas we're playing more of the backseat role, double checking verification. The times where we take the risk is when we have to recommend something differently from what the physician initially recommended, right? Oftentimes. And right? Tell me if I'm wrong. If
No,
you
no, no, you're so right, and I wanna add on to that
Yep,
because, like, what's our role as pharmacists? A lot of times in traditional roles, risk mitigation, right? And so by
exactly.
nature, we have to be in a survival mode, like, because
Mm,
survival also helps us determine there's no gray area with, like, survival. It's, like, right, wrong, it's very binary. How come we have, like, these treatment algorithms and stuff? It's because, like, we have to think that,
mhm,
but what the problem is we bring that line of thinking. It's like I'm not saying survival is bad or anything like that,
right.
but it's like we bring that line of thinking into our personal lives, our careers, finding a fulfilling career, and
Mhm,
it's just like we're asking the wrong questions because we're always thinking like, "How do I use my pharmacy?" It's the sunk cost fallacy, right? How do I
mhm,
use my pharmacy career to find something fulfilling? What can't those things be actually mutually exclusive for a second,
mm,
right? Does
mm,
it have to be related?
mm.
Not necessarily,
Not
but
necessarily.
yeah, yeah.
I think for a
But
lot of
I will.
people. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
No.
No, what are you gonna
Oh,
say?
yeah. Oh, thanks, Mr. Podchester. No, I was gonna say, I think it just makes sense. It's the easiest jump in logic for a lot of people. Like, oh, exactly what you're saying, sunk cost fallacy, where I've already invested, 8 years of my education or more into getting this doctor of pharmacy degree, the undergrad degree, whatever it was, and residency. Might as well see, if there's anything else out there that I can do with this degree to the nth degree, as opposed to thinking outside the box. It's hard to get outside the box in pharmacy because we're constantly told, what else can we do with this? Where else can we do it? There's always another certification. There's always another specialty
Mhm,
certification that we can get, another board exam we can get. Yeah. And so it gets hard to see one, that right? Like, it's hard to see people like maybe me or especially you, right? Where we've completely sidestepped outside of the normal trajectory and the traditional path. that's sometimes that's looked down upon by a lot of people,
Mm.
and especially if professors aren't talking about this kind of thing in school. People come out of school and they go into residency not having any idea how to think outside of the box. It's very difficult, I think, for a lot
Yeah,
of people.
it's kind of funny because I love my professors. I love Tim. Like Tim was actually my professor back in the day. He helped me during
Tim
my
says hi, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's so funny. He
Yeah.
was actually my dude. I can talk about this later when I have my midlife crisis that I went to Tim. Tim was the first because he was the only guy that like he was the only guy that like StarCraft and stuff. So we connected.
Yeah, yeah.
But to go back to my original thought, there are ways to use our pharmacy degree for tangential skills, and I have leveraged that a lot, and it really sticks out. I can talk about more of that later.
Sure.
But you're mentioning it was like so hard to see other solutions. And it's because of that belief that we need to use our pharmacy degree to find
Mhm,
something. I invested residency, I invested all these years for this. I have to make use of this, right?
mhm,
And then guess what happens? Like our reticular activating system is like, aye, Captain, I'm gonna filter out all the opportunities that that align with that our pharmacy and that I find fulfilling. But then guess what? There's so few. You look at non-traditional pharmacy, you can't build like, okay, this is gonna be a hot take, and probably people will hate me for this, but
okay,
like
go for it.
honestly, non-traditional pharmacy is like not a I wouldn't call it the dumbest term ever, but then it's not like it's you can't run into a direction that's not something like there's no mission statement in the world that's like running away from something. Mission is meant to pull vision and mission are meant to pull you towards something. So you
Mhm,
can't exclude it, right? You have to have something that you're going toward, right? And when people say non-farm, that could include like anything. Could I be non-farm? Because I literally went from like yeah, maybe it's pharmacy tangential, but I'm talking about YouTube. Technically, the stuff that I do right now, like I have a digital marketing advisory, right? And we help some of the people we help are actually like physicians and like other healthcare professionals. Is that non is that non-farm? Right? It's just so broad and it's not a specific term. And they're like, I can't find a non-farm. That's because, like, dude, it's everything else. It's everything outside of the circle of traditional pharmacy. Yeah, that's my hot take, Matt. There's a
no,
lot on my mind about pharmacy.
oh,
It's so
no, absolutely, as you should, because you're able to. I think you have a lot of hot takes and a lot of great perspective, in my opinion,
mm.
because you're able to see things from an outside point of view.
I'm also able to talk about things that most pharmacists can't. They're
True.
all thinking it, but they can't you can't vocalize it because you're stuck to the job,
Exactly,
right?
which is why I say it, because you're literally on the outside, right? It's not just that you have an
Yeah,
outsider's point of view, but you literally are on the outside of the profession, and so it's easier for
yeah,
you to say it than others. But I know, I mean, personally in my conversations as well, like, I know this is very common. But just to go off of your point,
yeah.
like, the skills that you're doing right now, same skills that I'm kind of building with the things that I've been doing, digital marketing, sales, negotiation. Those are skills that could 10x a lot of pharmacists' career and their job satisfaction to get more of what they actually want in their current positions or to move up in their in their current specialties. But
Mm,
it's just not a skill that's we've been given exposure to in pharmacy school and residency. It's just really not. I mean, negotiating
yeah.
what? Your salary. Like your salary is a big part of, like, getting job satisfaction and getting the amount of money that you want out of that position, that role, and a lot of pharmacists, I feel like, from the conversations I've had, they fall into this pit of, "Oh, I'm not as worth it as I think I am," and they fall back and they don't put themselves out there to take a little bit of a risk to get the money that they deserve. Things like that.
Here's the here's the thing. This is another hot take that
Sure.
like I see a lot of pharmacists fall into all time. Dude, your worth is not determined by your career. Just because you don't
I
have
agree.
a PGY1, PGY2, whatever degree, you're not board certified, doesn't take away your value as a person. Yes, there's skills and competencies, of course, right? But
100%.
like, dude, there's nothing stopping you from going out into another field and making way more money or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like my good friend Brian, he went into tech. Brian Funk.
Fung? Oh, yeah. He said hi too, by the way. We're in a Gorilla group chat.
Oh, Oh yeah, that's
Oh, yeah.
funny. That's funny. Yeah. I always call him too. I'm like, dude, you'll never guess what happened and stuff. He's one of my he's a really, really close friend.
Mhm.
But yeah, like, dude, like there's nothing stopping us from thinking outside. Is like when we start identifying, like, this is who I am versus like this is what I kind of do,
I
but it's not
see.
who I am,
Mhm.
right?
I see what you're
It's
saying.
just like the labeling of emotions.
Yeah.
I am sad versus I feel sad. Very
Yes.
different. It's a
Very
temporary
different.
state versus permanent state, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
It's very much a mind goes back to mindset, right? Like, we love talking about it because we're if we're in this constant mindset of, "This is who I am, this is all I'll ever be, and I can't step outside of that box," we'll
Mm,
never be able to envision ourselves stepping outside and seeing ourselves as more than just that. So that's why when like, I talk about this all the time. Like, sometimes I feel certain pharmacy friends, I'm like, I can't like, when I if I had a birthday party or something, like, it would be
yeah.
very I've heard this from my friends, actually. They feel uncomfortable intermingling their pharmacy friends with their non-pharmacy friends. Because one
Really?
yeah, because a lot of
Mm.
pharmacy friends, we're in our own little bubble. We're in our own little box, so that when we get together, what we end up doing is we just start bitching essentially and just complaining about all the
Oh,
little things
yeah.
that go
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about.
I remember that.
But
I remember
eh,
that. Yeah, yeah.
and then how does that make the non-pharmacy people feel, right? Then it's just like this constant negative thing. Not saying that every pharmacist is negative, but it's just
Yeah.
natural to want to talk about when you see another pharmacist. You're like, "Oh, did you get this kind of patient today, or did you get the prior authorization XYZ?" You know? Versus,
Oh god.
yeah,
PTSD.
yeah, exactly, that's what I'm saying, this is really difficult. But whereas, your non-pharmacy friends, they're talking about popular culture, they're talking about politics, they're talking about things that are just going on in the world right now that sometimes we're insulated from in the pharmacy world, right? Where we're just focused on, getting hitting our metrics, getting stuff done at the pharmacy, and then going home, and then coming back.
Yeah, it's so interesting because, like, I find that it's funny to hear your experience with, like, I would have some of those pharmacy friends that would talk about pharmacy all the time, but
Yeah.
then I was just like, dude, some of my pharmacy friends, we go, like, Magic City and stuff. We go to club
No,
stuff
no,
like that,
no,
like,
no, no,
clubbing.
no. Trust me, my pharmacy friends, we're good. We're talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
building
Yeah, yeah,
businesses
yeah.
together. We're talking about, like, digital
Yeah,
health. Yeah, we're talking
yeah,
about big stuff. But it's just
yeah.
I've heard it from my other friends too, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, like, like, that's why I feel so strongly about finding work that is really fulfilling
Mhm.
because, like, it consumes so much of our lives that, dude, that's what I meant by, like, earlier I said, like, it was turning me into a person that I wasn't happy with. I was always miserable all the time. I was always stressed out. I was, like, depressed and all this sort of stuff.
Mhm.
And if I work like a 40-hour week or, like, even more, how much is how much of that is, like, kind of like my that temporary identity or that temporary feelings, how much of it is actually permanent, dude?
Permanent,
And
yeah.
I'm like, "Oh my god, like, this has turned me into an absolute dick." I feel, like, so bad for my partner because all I'm doing is bitching about pharmacy and stuff. And I was like, "That's not facilitating my growth at
Yeah.
all, right?" Like, how the hell is, like, bitching about pharmacy gonna help me get out? It's not, right? And it's just like, yeah, it's just, like, furthers this survival mindset, right?
Right. But I'm sure at that in that moment, it was therapeutic for you, right? Like, it was a release valve for you to be able to
Oh,
complain about it, right? But obviously, to your point, yeah, it wasn't really moving the needle for you and your career or your happiness at all. But it was a temporary relief that I'm sure if you held it inside, it probably wouldn't be good either, right?
yeah. Yeah, it's just really interesting because I haven't been on a pharmacy podcast, like, this is the first one since, like,
You think this is a pharmacy podcast?
2017.
You think this is a pharmacy
Kind of.
podcast? A little bit. It's just because we happen to be on the topic of pharmacy, and I happen to just
Yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
tangentially related to pharmacy too, and I just
Yeah, yeah,
graduated.
yeah.
But,
It's
you know
just so interesting, right? And, like, just being back in the mind, like, I'm having, like, flashback like, as we're speaking and you're
Mhm.
talking about this, I'm literally having flashbacks of, like, "Oh, me and Angela, this was a girl on my channel for a long
I
time."
saw
She
yeah, I
everybody's,
saw
like, shipping us back in the day, but, dude, we're
mm.
just friends. But we meet up all the time and just be like, "I wanna start a juice bar." I was like, "I don't wanna start a juice bar, but I'll listen to you talk." Right? I still
Yeah.
have like, it's like those memories, right? And I look so fondly toward it. So thank you. I just wanna thank you too for, like, just, like, helping me, like, remember these moments because I
Mhm.
forgot. I
Yeah.
literally forgot this.
No, it's all good. No, I'm glad I'm helping you bring back because it sounds like you have a lot of good memories from pharmacy. Like for all the burnout and for all the tragedy and just burning out really badly.
Yeah.
I'm sure you had good friends in pharmacy school and you had good times and good discussions and you found a lot of lifelong friends, right?
Yeah, I did. I found like so my pharmacy friends are actually some of my closest friends to this
Yeah,
day.
exactly.
Like I'll hit I feel comfortable hitting them up. I feel comfortable dude, they've always been there and they were always so supportive like when I made that transition out
Mhm.
because they saw dude, like they saw everything I went through. Like I literally dude, I could have by the way, hot take, I could have sued like for a lot of
Wow.
money.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't because my dad, like, passed away. I just didn't wanna be consumed with that.
Yeah.
But it was like, dude, I requested for FMLA, and then
What
they
what is that?
oh, Family Leave Medical Act,
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah.
and then they terminated they were trying to terminate me at that moment. Crazy, right?
That is
I'm not gonna say
insane.
who,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm not gonna say who, but, like,
That
dude,
is scandalous. A
it's
scandal.
scandalous,
Yeah.
super scandalous, but also,
Mhm.
like, too, it just brings out the human nature, right? As professional as we can be,
Yep.
there's this element of human nature. Not everyone's out for your best intentions and stuff like that. And I felt really, really burned because I was like, man, I sacrificed so much of my life for this like thing.
Mm.
And just to be treated like this, I'm like, oh my God, this is like, I don't know. This is like, I'm sure there's crap that I did, honestly, that they didn't like me for.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But, like, it's like, man, like, to devote so much of your life toward this thing and to have, like, so many accomplishments and just to be thrown aside when it's an inconvenience, man, I now you ca I hope people can see why I kinda did the don't do pharmacy all of a sudden, like, all this
Mm.
is kinda building up in the back end and stuff like that. Yeah.
You're definitely weaving a better picture, I think, than from what I gleaned from your video. It makes more sense with the context that you're giving here because, yeah, I thought you were just bitter. Like, yeah, I mean, it came out a little bit like, you know what I mean?
I was
But like,
bitter. I was
I
super
mean, yeah,
bitter.
you were also bitter. But, but like, it doesn't make. How can you, in your most dire moments of need, like like when you look back on your life, top 10 moments of significance will definitely be your father's passing. And I think for everyone, I'm sure when my father will pass, that will be a top 10 significant moment in my own life. Where will I be? Who will I be talking to? Who will be my employer? How will we handle that situation? And to your point, to have the company, the employer that you had dedicated so much time, energy, emotional investment into, and to gain those skills and to, hit those metrics, whatever, and make them so much money, XYZ, right? And for them to just cast you aside when, it didn't serve them. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
sure it
I
sure I'm sure it didn't feel good.
I think the worst part about it too is
Mhm.
like, this corporate gas there's like one of the things I've been thinking about is corporate gaslighting and how
Mm.
like everything is your fault and all that. And
Mm.
for a second, like time, they made me feel like really, really bad. Like
Mm.
at the moment, I felt really, really I felt like almost I was like a bad person for starting a YouTube channel, for pursuing these things. I was
Wow.
pretty clean with I swore and stuff with my YouTube channel, but
Yeah.
I was like really helping. I was trying to help student stuff and all that. And I was like, I felt like a bad person for being on social media. And fast forward years later, everyone wants to be on social media. All these people that wanted to like were talking crap about me. I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, they want to be on social media. It's so crazy. I'm like, man, for a while, like I felt so bad, but it took me a lot of time, like a lot of therapy, a lot of self-reflection to just be able to be like, no, this is just who I am. If you don't like it, I don't care. Right.
Mm.
But people are looking at it as a strength now because all these people all of a sudden they need BD people they need someone who's in the profession who has the PharmD, but
Yeah.
also understands content to the psychology of content. They understand the neuroscience. I can be very professional in front of people, have
Yeah.
that level of professionalism that some high school kid or some college kid, they're not gonna have. And it's
Right.
just like, this is how I've been able to elevate, like, use my pharmacy degree as like, it might not be directly related, but there's a lot of tangential skills. And people are like, whoa, what? You were a pharmacist? I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was. And I made a decision to quit just to do something bigger. And they're like, whoa. opens up discussion.
Absolutely, and it's just such a I think a not relatable is one word. I'm saying maybe definitely outstanding and inspiring is probably the right word because for someone to switch, to dedicate, people know, it's a doctorate, right? It's a doctorate degree. You
Oh,
invested, like,
I make them know. I make no. I just throw like, yeah, it's like a
yeah, yeah,
doctor,
this is a
pharmacy,
doctorate,
whatever,
pharmacist,
you know.
whatever. But like people know it's like a respected profession. Like people still know, like generally, like general populace, I would still say understands that like pharmacists are one of the most trusted healthcare professionals or just sorry professions in general, right? And then for you to take that leap of faith outside of that because to out from outsiders to you you might have been in survival mode, but for a lot of people they see it as a leap of faith, an act of courage, something that you were inspired to do because of certain life events, right? That's how some people may see it. To them, that's inspiring. It may inspire that I'm sure through your YouTube channel, I'm sure you've gotten DMs, I'm sure you've gotten comments, emails, whatever, people reaching pharmacy students reaching out to you about how your story inspired them to make a leap of faith and to do whether it's, something even more clinically challenging or just go completely left field and not pharmacy at all, right?
I've had both comments, and I have a
Exactly.
whole folder full of them, and
That's
it's
awesome.
like one of my good friends, she was like, "Dude, you saved me so much money from going to pharmacy. I'm so happy
Mm,
with what I do now." And I've heard the other side where it's like, "Dude, like you told all that you were talking all that crap about pharmacy, and I still like want to do it, and your earlier videos helped me just like reaffirm my decision. I just want to thank you for it." I'm like, "Great." Like, dude, I've very rarely had a situation like, "You can't and you ruined my life because I'm not a pharmacist now." I'm like, very rarely, but it's like, at the time, I just felt like it was just such a something that needed to be said, and we needed to take a more of an objective look. Like, I did a retake. A lot of people don't know, but I did a retake on that video because it was a less emotional and,
mm,
like, more logical, and I was going through the BLS, like, job outlook at the time. It was, like,
mm.
-3 or -8. It was an absurd number for the job growth.
I think it was around when I started. I started school in 2018, and I think we were looking at the
Mhm.
job outlook for the 2022, 2023 outlook. I think I remember it being somewhere in the negatives.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty what is it now? Do you know?
I actually don't know. Maybe we could look it up, but I actually don't know. While we're on that topic though, because I agree
Yeah.
with what you were just saying because it was
Mm.
needed to be said. None of the major organizations are gonna say that because, their bottom lines, essentially reliant on
There's
getting
yeah.
people in, right? So of course they're not gonna outright say which is why it was reliant on people like you, figures in the community like you to acknowledge it at least. Like this is information that we weren't getting. I didn't get. Like, I didn't my parent for me, like, right? Like, we're both first generation immigrants, is that right? First gen student immigrants
I'm
or
between, like, 1st and, like, 4th. Like, on my dad's side, I'm, like, 4th. On my mom's side, I'm, like, 1st, so I'm, like,
gotcha,
I don't know.
interesting. Right, interesting. Well, I'm full-fledged first generation, like, professional
Yeah,
student, right? And
yeah,
so, my parents obviously didn't have this information, like, they thought, "Oh, pharmacist, safety, job security, money, the,
yeah,
whatever,"
yeah.
right? And yeah, and honestly, I didn't exactly get your information when I was applying to pharmacy school, but once I got into pharmacy school, I was exposed to that kind of information. I started to think harder about like, okay, with this information, now that I'm armed with this, where do I go from here? Right? So because now it's
Exactly.
knowledge is power. So it's like, okay, I'm already in here. Okay, I can't do anything about it. What can I do? Right? As opposed to just getting down on myself, being despairing, and just defaulting into survival mode. I chose to go into executive mode, strategize for what I want to do, network, and find what my passions are and my interests, because that will instantly compound into how other people see me and my brand and my reputation. That's why I met people like Tim, like Brian Fung, like David Vu, Beju Shaw, all the informatics guys, and Tony Dow, and then from there, just meeting everybody else and even Sagar. Like, I remember watching your interview with Sagar. Like, you wanna talk about that?
So funny. Yeah. It's so funny. Well, let me finish up this last thought. I think
Oh, yeah,
something
yeah,
that
sorry.
really
Yeah.
resonates with me is, like, dude, that's all I wanted to do. I wanted people to be very intentional about their decisions.
Mm,
It's okay if you're it's okay if you're taking a risk, if you know intentionally from the start that, "Hey, I'm making this conscious decision. I'm going to do pharmacy. I know the odds are against me, but this is something I really love." I'm
mm,
like, "Dude, if that's how you feel, go for it," you know?
mm.
But if you're like, "Hey, I'm like, I just want it for the farm, like just to call myself a doctor, just to
Yeah,
make a lot of money. Actually,
money.
I lied to people. Those are the reasons what I told people why I did pharmacy, but I actually those weren't the real reasons why I did pharmacy. Can talk about
Interesting.
that some other time. But
Okay,
like,
gotcha.
yeah, yeah, like honestly, like I that's the purpose behind the video because no one else is going to talk about this sort of stuff. And it's important to make an intentional decision so that you can do proper risk assessment, being like, okay, I'm going to blow 200 G's on this.
Yeah.
Is it worth it for me or not? Do I see a vision for me at the end of the tunnel or not? And
Mhm.
like, dude, that's why people like thank me either way. They're like, oh, it made me really decide I still want to do pharmacy, or made me decide I want to just abandon ship altogether.
Right. And and 100% agree with everything you just said because everything that was inherent in your videos, it definitely didn't necessarily help me make a decision, but it definitely helped me formulate the intention in the questions that I started asking. 'Cause I
Yes.
started asking better questions to my professors, to my peers, like, "Oh, are you guys thinking about this? Have my professors thought about this? Have my deans thought about this? Have people that are already currently practicing, are they thinking about this?" Right. So it helped me ask better questions to my mentors, to my colleagues, to my professors
Mm,
to help me give me more context about, like, is
yeah.
this actually happening? Is this what everybody else is seeing, or am I crazy? I definitely felt crazy a lot of times, like, talking about digital health and digital marketing and pharmacy and stuff like that.
Bro, I'm telling you, when I was having my breakdown with Tim, like, it
Mhm.
was like, dude, I don't think a lot of people know this, but I was, like, 1 month away from graduation. You've gone through all this hard stuff, and I was thinking about actually going to withdrawing altogether. That's
Dude.
why I went to Tim. Like, that's why I went to Tim because I was like, "I'm being mindful so hard right now. I don't know if this is the career that I really want to do,
Yeah.
and, like, I don't see any way out other than quitting, seppuku, or, like, or just roughing it, like tough it, like sticking with it.
Yeah.
Right. And then Tim was just like, just see how it goes. And he was like that voice of comfort sometimes that we need that I didn't have from my like avoidant Asian parents. I'm not gonna like my dad, how are you feeling? They're not gonna say my dad's not
Yeah,
gonna
the
ask me that. They don't
yeah,
care, right? It's
yeah,
like, but it's like Tim was that voice of reason. And sometimes we just need really good people in our lives, a sounding board, just advisors. We need really good that's one thing I wish I
mentors.
had. Mentor. I hate the word mentor, but
Oh, okay,
trusted
gotcha.
for
Trusted
no, it's
advisor.
cool. If you like it, that's cool.
I
But for
like
me,
it.
I'm like, oh, I think about like the some old guy on a like some Chinese old
Un
guy
Uncle
on
Iroh type stuff.
yeah. Or the Kill Bill, like Pai Mei and stuff, Kill
Mm,
Bill.
yeah, yeah.
But I think about trusted advisors, right? And
Mm,
like that can help us bring us back into that executive state where we're like long-term thinking, empathy, critical thinking, all these essential skills. And like, thank God for Tim. Like, thank God for Tim for saving saving me at that time because I was really having a mental breakdown. And right, yeah, 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 it was really crazy. And right, right when I was meeting Tim, my laptop got stolen from my car. So I don't know if that was a sign or not, or who knows. I was stupid. I was like, oh, the one time I left my laptop in my car, but it got stolen.
I agree. So it's funny you mentioned that because, again,
Oh,
on Clubhouse is where I met Tim, right?
yeah.
And I was kind of not necessarily in the same state you were, although I did wanna say that I also, about a month before graduation, I was this close to just saying, "Screw it, I'm not showing up to graduation, like, I don't think I deserve it," but a lot of self-worth issues there and burnout
Mm,
issues. But, like, going back to Tim, like, I remembering Tim's words and remembering all of my mentors' words, David Vood, Tony Dow, Beju Shah, all of them that I met up through Clubhouse. Th Having met Tim on Clubhouse and the rest of the guys and everybody that I met through digital health, they helped solidify that maybe these are my people. This is where I belong. Like, because I
mm,
felt super out of place as like a unicorn in pharmacy, right? Like talking about the things that I was talking about, self improvement or just digital health or just non traditional. Going to a super clinically minded college of pharmacy, right? Like where everybody was just trying to get the residency or fellowship or which is fine, right?
yeah.
Nothing against them at all because again, I respect a lot of my peers for doing that, but I just knew it wasn't for me from the pretty much from the get go. But but, getting some backlash from classmates and just feeling like I didn't belong. Whereas when I
Mm,
talked with Tim and I talked with, these guys, it just felt like they understood me. They
Mhm.
understood the struggle, they understood the plight that I was going through, and it made me feel very heard, and which is why I went all in on trying to, like, spend more time with them on Clubhouse, which is I was addicted to Clubhouse, right? Like, I was I was
I
straight
know you were. This kid was always you were, like, always there, dude. I was like, "The f why are you" it's like 2 a.m. and you're still there.
dude, I literally would leave it on, like, while I slept
Sleep.
just to have the profile sitting there and to get the followers in, right? That was what I was super about it. Oh, this is
Oh, that's so
right.
funny, yeah.
Yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
your lighting got
Yeah,
screwed up
my
just
well,
now, but
I don't know what just happened.
yeah,
But yeah, no, I thank goodness every day that I met everybody that I met in digital health at that time, because they helped
yeah,
solidify that, "Hey, you're not crazy. You're headed in the right direction. You just need a little guidance, if anything." Sorry, my
yeah.
lighting is just so out of whack right now. So, yeah, I agree with you.
Hey, can I ask you something? I know this is a little tangent. Like, we're
No,
talking about, like, all the dirty I don't want to call it dirty laundry, but
no,
all the
no, ask
context
me.
behind my videos.
Yeah, ask
Like,
me.
I've always felt, like, really out of place. Like, I felt really out of place in pharmacy. I felt like the
Yeah,
black sheep of pharmacy because 'cause
yeah,
I'd be like, "Yo, like, let's go clubbing with all my pharmacy friends."
yeah.
I would do that, or I'll talk about, like, dating as a pharmacist. What is it like? Right?
Mhm,
Things like
mhm.
that. But outside looking in, what do you it's like, what's their perspective of me? Are they like, "Dude, he's the ratchet pharmacist," or he's like, "Dude, he's like really bitter." You mentioned bitterness, right? I'm kinda
Bitterness,
curious
yeah.
about the outside perspective.
Wait, outside perspective of how, like, what me people like me or just any
Yeah,
pharmacist
yeah,
student
yeah.
looking at your videos?
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Look at my social media.
Again, I may be a black sheep too. So how I view you,
That's true.
I identify with you. See, I'm the wrong person to ask because I was like, yeah, like we need to talk about like how do we date and because like coming from an Asian background, like as soon as you graduate from pharmacy, it's like, okay, when are we having kids? When are you getting married? Like, where's the relationship? Where's the girlfriend? Where's the wife? So dating is, but specifically as a
Mm,
pharmacist, like, yeah, how do we find the time? Like, how do we go about that? Like, I those are kind of the questions I would ask too, and seeing you not necessarily fumble your way through it, but, like, asking those questions with, like, your friends and just, like, the talking crap about it, that was fun. I thought it was funny, I thought it was entertaining, and I thought it was also a journey of self-discovery. That's how I viewed it,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
appreciated it because, it's not something because you see it from other people. You see it from, like, content
yeah.
creators or people who are straight influencers, or people who are in tech or whatever, right? Whatever industry. You don't really get to see pharmacists opening themselves up to that kind of
Mm,
personal
mm,
personal exhibition on such a public
mm.
platform, and to
Yeah.
see someone do that was very inspiring. Like, the reason you see the stuff I post on my Instagram story now, right?
Mm,
The
yeah.
reason I feel empowered to do that is because of people who paved the way like you, like Adam Martin, the fit pharmacist, like even Sagar, I look up to him too a little bit, like, we do lifestyle content. We made content in pharmacy first, and then we use that as our domain of expertise to now branch out into talking about just life, just things that matter in life, family, friends, our hobbies, our passions, our interests, whatever that is. I think that's important because I think those are the things that it goes back to the movie, was it Carpe Diem, where with Robin Williams?
Never saw it.
You never saw it? Okay, yeah. But he's just
No.
talking about, like, professions like engineering, law, being a doctor. Those are the things that are necessary for sustenance of life. But
Yeah.
why do we live? For, poetry, passion, music. Those are the kind of things that we live for, right?
Yeah.
And love, right? Like those I think those are the things that we need to talk more about. Because I think our society today in general, if I mean, it tells everyone that our career comes first over everything, right? But
Yeah.
when we're on our deathbeds, 60, 70, 80 years from now, are you gonna say, "Should I have worked more?" No,
Probably
you
not.
no, probably not. I've written my own obituary as part of my leadership courses in communication studies and as a minor
Mm,
in undergrad at UT Austin.
yeah.
I wrote my own obituary at the age of 21, and
Mm,
after having looked at it, I was like, "Is this how I wanna be remembered?" Like, it just puts everything into context, like memento mori, right? Remember your death. It
Yes.
just puts
Mhm.
everything into perspective, like, how do you remember? Do you wanna remember as a good student, good pharmacist, good father, good husband, good son, good cousin, good manager, good leader? And then from there, you work backwards, like, how do I get to be remembered for that?
Mm.
That's how I view a lot of the things that I do now.
Yeah. You know, it's really funny as you're speaking, I'm thinking about, like, how the YouTube channel started, and I'm really good friends with him, but you know Paul Tran, the pharmacist? He's like the OG pharmacist on YouTube.
Like, on YouTube? I don't think so.
He's the first
Okay.
to pharmacy school and stuff, but he'd be like typical pharmacist vibes. He's like very boring, very monotone. I love Paul, by the way. We're really good
Sure, sure,
friends.
sure. You should
I
introduce me
always call
sometime.
him like I always clown Brian and Paul, by the way. It's like always like our thing, right? But
Okay, sure.
I was like, dude, this guy is so boring. I want people to know that there's like ratchet pharmacists like me because we're going out all the time. We're going like,
Mm,
dude, I remember going ASHP in Vegas, right
mhm,
back in the
mhm,
day. And the only reason why I did a poster was because it was all paid like trip to Vegas. I was
mhm.
like, yo, I want to do this. It's like whatever, like, but do you guys want to go to Vegas? And I just threw their names. We got a free flight to Vegas and stuff, and we're going out every single night. It was really fun and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, I wanted to show that other side of farm. Like, you don't have to be this like cookie cutter, boring like pharmacist. There's like a life outside that I that brings back a lot of memories. I remember why I started my YouTube channel. That was the original reason why. I remember watching Brian like in pharmacy school, and I was like, dude, this guy is so boring. Like his content's really good, but he was really
Eh,
boring at the time.
great
Yeah.
production quality, I will say, like,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
So, yeah, but he's a good friend. Like we
Yeah.
meet up from yeah, I haven't talked to him in a few years, but I hope he's doing well, man.
No, yeah, I definitely consider all of them, like, my mentors and everything like that, and I hope you
Yeah.
know that I consider you a mentor, even though we don't actually talk very often, and you're just always in my DMs constantly about a certain person and bringing me
Yeah.
certain things.
The X-rated stuff.
The X-rated
Yeah,
stuff,
it's
but,
yeah.
like, no, I definitely consider you a mentor. I look up to you from a distance because you paved the way, 100%. Like, I would not feel as comfortable to sorry, I think I turned up my gain really loud. Yeah, there it goes.
Oh, no, it's fine.
It's fine. Okay.
Yeah, it's level.
Yeah, I wouldn't feel as comfortable to talk about the things that I do now about just life on my
Yeah.
channel if it weren't for you, man. You paved the way.
Thank you, man. Yeah, there's so many more stories I wanna share on my channel, but I never got to share, like, my intern stories and all that. It's
It's crazy.
crazy, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Let's do a couple hot takes because
Sure,
we can continue this conversation another time because I would love to have you back on the channel because I'm sure you have more
sure.
stories to tell, and it sounds like
Oh,
you don't
yeah.
get a lot of more chances to talk about pharmacy on other pharmacy podcasts, it sounds like.
Yeah, because it's so boring for people, they don't understand. I'm like, "Oh my god," like, dude, these stories are coming up in my head. I'm like, "Oh, shoot," like, all the kinda, like, crazy stories I would love to share some other time, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I think do you agree? Let me know if you disagree or agree. Like I think the way we talk about it, we make it relatable to anybody that's listening, right? Like the way we tell the story.
Yeah, of course, because everybody can relate to, like,
Yeah,
wanting to date in school, like, having these expectations put on you, but then you have to be a certain way, and you're just like, "Oh my god, I hate this. I don't wanna go to work today," right? Like,
yeah,
everybody can relate to that,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
100%.
So,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah,
just life stuff, right?
yeah,
Some hot takes.
cool.
Current state of pharmacy school. Underrated, overrated.
Oh, we're doing underrated, overrated. Current state of pharmacy school, overrated?
Why?
Just because I obviously don't know BLS, like, statistics, I'm talking out my
Okay.
but, like, honestly, it's a huge business. Education is a huge business, and I feel like they're ripping off a lot of students or taking a lot of these, like, traditional beliefs of a secure career like pharmacy and
Mhm.
taking advantage of students and not giving out the actual information. So, that's my take on it.
Yeah. No, I agree. Another hot take slash underrated, overrated here, Kevin.
Okay.
Chat GPT in in both sales and pharmacy. You can take time for both of those questions.
Okay, cool. So, for pharmacy, it's underrated. I
Mhm,
was doing okay, no, it was really crazy. I was literally doing I was, like, curious. We all get case studies in pharmacy school and stuff like that. I was
mhm,
like, "Let's kinda feed this some stuff." So I fed it some guidelines.
mhm,
I asked it to summarize these landmark studies
mhm.
in layman terms. It can calculate number needed to treat and all that. It's, like, really major, and I asked, what are the practical clinical implications of this study?"
Uh-huh.
It was on point. I was like, "Oh my god." But I'm rusty on my studies, so I was like I was asking my board certified friend, I was like, "Hey, do you mind coming onto my YouTube channel and just, like, seeing if this is true?" Because, like, it's been a while since I've done pharmacy stuff, right? I can do a complete CMR through ChatGPT.
Well, I mean, assuming that, like, all the
Data
it's
is
accurate,
right,
right? Yeah, does it
but I
right,
can
right.
give it context,
Mm.
and it's there. And it's like, it can help you think about certain things that you may not have thought about too. And that's
This
the thing, right?
yeah.
Like, when we can combine our clinical judgment with something like ChatGPT, man, it is scary stuff. I mean, I don't think it's gonna replace anyone's job anytime soon, but, I mean, some of the stuff still sucks with ChatGPT. I have Plus, it's not that great. So,
Yeah, but I always go back to this, like, I agree with you, like,
yeah.
I don't think it's gonna replace, but in the future, in the next, 5, 10, 20 years, whatever it is, I don't know the time scale because AI is just growing at such a fast pace,
Exponential.
exponential pace. The way I talk about digital health, right? Like, the clinicians who will undoubtedly survive, or not necessarily survive, but do better, are the ones who will embrace digital health technologies. The ones who will do better will always be the first adopters, not necessarily the first adopters, but the ones who embrace the technology and try it out and see how it can improve their abilities as a clinician and create more time and efficiency with their patients. Because at the end of the day, that's what healthcare is supposed to be about, right?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. Imagine if you could take all the lecture notes that you learned in pharmacy school, transcriptions of it, all that,
Mhm,
dump
mhm,
that in, because that's what's happening in pharmacy school, right?
yeah,
And we can train it, we can give it enough context of how to think. It can start learning that gray area, which is scary to some, but from the way I look at it, it still requires you to ask really great prompts. It still requires the people who are current practitioners to have enough awareness to ask the right questions. Because if you can't ask the right questions, you're screwed. But you're right.
I agree.
The people who use things like ChatGTP, embrace technology, the users of new innovations, they're going to come out on top. And everybody who's like, "Oh no, I don't want to learn that." It's like, I just want to count. I just want to verify my pills. Congrats. You just you're just submitting, just saying that, "Hey, I don't want a career in pharmacy." You have to evolve and
Mm,
you have to embrace these technologies.
yep.
If
So
you
what
want.
about yeah, 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 if you wanna stay in pharmacy. Hot take again, but what about sales? How are you what are you seeing in sales with ChatGPT?
Oh, this is also interesting. Because, like, if you can't tell, I'm, like, really big into human psychology and stuff and
So much,
learning
yeah.
neuroscience. And I was like, oh, yeah, just to answer, like, it's underrated in sales too. I
Gotcha.
can take just like patient notes, right? Like how we can type up patient notes and stuff. I take all notes on all my clients. I have transcripts on my conversations with people. I it has context of my business, my service offerings, and all that.
Yeah.
And I can be like, hey, pretend that you are XYZ author. One of my favorite sales authors is Blair Enns or Christo right now. I'm
Mm,
like, pretend you're Blair Enns. Write write a proposal specifically for this person. And I was like, dude, this is really good. I actually read it verbatim, closed the deal.
wow. So it can literally recreate the persona, and with that persona, create text or a speech or a proposition,
Well,
proposal, email, what draft that
yeah.
can sound exactly like that persona.
Yep. And here's the thing too. It's not perfect though. There's a lot of soft skills. Like I was talking about, like you can't read through a script like this and like panic and all that, right? You gotta learn the pacing. You gotta learn the
Mm,
intention behind what's happening. But if you are a practitioner, if you are a master, I guess, at your craft, it just makes your life so much easier. And that's what makes me so excited about these because like I can teach it. I can basically I basically have an assistant or like a secondary provider or something like that, or a secondary like secondary brain or assistant that what which I can train and it can take most of the friction out of the process. That's what I love about this technology, which is scary because it is going to put people out of jobs. But guess what? It also creates new jobs. Think
I
about
agree.
computers.
You
Think
you
about
hear about
mobile phones.
you hear
Yeah.
about the AI whisperers? That's a new
What's
job.
that? What's
No,
that?
literally, it's a new job. Let me find it. It's literally called an AI whisperer. So essentially, what they're going to be doing is, I mean, you have to yeah. So here, I'll read the. I'm looking at Morning Brew. Shout out to at Morning Brew. I love their
Oh yeah,
content.
they're good.
Everybody talks about AI taking their job when they should be looking at the jobs it's creating, especially the pay. Quote unquote, prompt engineers are people who spend their day manipulating the AI to produce better results while helping companies train their workforce to harness the tools. These newly created roles can pay upwards of 335K a year. AI whisper jobs are paying up to this amount. The best part, you don't need to be a computer science major to land these jobs. It's like an AI whisperer, says Albert Phillips, a prompt engineer at Mudano, a part of consultancy firm Accenture. You'll often find prompt engineers come from a history, philosophy, or English or psychology background because it's wordplay.
Dude, people, I don't think mass market realizes the implications of this. I literally wrote out a job descriptions in my brand voice, in a witty, contrarian, rebellious type of voice. And it's funny too. And I was like, make it comedic too, because I like a little dark humor. And it
Wait,
printed everything out.
wait, by typing in, "Hey," in the voice of Kevin Yee, type this out?
I gave a context of my brand. I gave a context of all that. I can make it think like any sort of people I read in books. I'm doing a video on this right now, but I literally I use things like short form, which has like professional summaries of books. I have my own notes with Readwise, and I export it to Notion. I copy and paste all that, throw it in there, right? And I'm like, pretend you're this author. What would you do if you're in my situation? It's really interesting. We're seeing all these different applications for it. There was actually, they got sued, but they actually made a ChatGPT therapist bot.
I think I heard about that.
And they realized that they weren't HIPAA compliant.
You probably not. Here's the crazy part. I heard there's an AI out there right now that if you insert and give it context for all of like the past messages, videos, photos, whatever of your ex, you can upload it to this AI and it'll recreate the persona of your ex and you can converse with it.
Oh man.
The psychological and emotional implications of that may not be morally, you know, up to standard, but, who's to say that you can't use that to get over next or, maybe fall back in love with them? I don't know.
Say all the things that you wish you said. That probably our
Yeah.
PC.
Oh, man.
Oh man. Yeah, but like I said, like these are the things about not only ChatGPT, because that's only one, but Google came out with theirs. I'm using theirs too. I'm
That's
using yeah,
combined with, like, Google Word and stuff or not Google Word, Google
it's
Docs and stuff like that?
I'm using Bard AI.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in Google search, right?
Yeah, it actually has its own platform just like ChatGPT and
Okay,
stuff, but you can use it in search. I think they have integrated into it.
gotcha.
But yeah, they're
And
scrambling right now. They're scrambling because they're trying to catch up.
to Microsoft and ChatGPT, because I know OpenAI and Microsoft have invested, what, billions of dollars
I think
into a
100
partnership.
billion. I think
Yeah.
it was like 100 billion, some obscene amount number. It was like some crazy number, but when I talk about these applications, it's like these are very, very real. They've helped cut my costs down for my YouTube channel tremendously, right? I still pay people, right? But just like it just gives me better ideas, better ideas, better ideas. I'm like, holy crap, this is really interesting because now like I'm not just by myself creating content. It can actually help me create SOPs. It can help me create branding guidelines. It can help me create job roles. Scripts, it kind of sucks, honestly. It's not that great because it doesn't know my stories. But yeah,
Dude.
yeah.
Oh, let me tell you, the reason I'm able to restart my podcast because I stopped creating content 2 years ago because one, I was burnt out and pharmacy I was doing all this on top of pharmacy school and Clubhouse and rotations, and I literally had a podcast content creation team, like a whole production team, but I couldn't keep up with all of it, right? It was too much. The reason I'm able to do it now, I don't have a team or anything, it's just me right now at this point, and my co-founder, he's doing his own thing right now, but we're essentially just us 2. The reason I'm able to record this and create content clips like that, AI, AI software. I'll show it to you later. I don't know if
Yeah.
you're already using anything,
Which
but
one?
video.ai.
I haven't used that one, but
Yeah,
I've used other ones. Huh, interesting.
just upload straight to that, and it as the AI, it pulls out clips for you, already made pre-formatted to the context you
Oh,
want.
I played around with some of those. A lot of the
Mhm.
apps I've played with kinda suck, but if you have a good one,
It's
I'm
I
open
mean
to
I mean, you can judge for yourself. The videos that I've come out with
yeah.
on my Instagram, those are all
Mm,
from video.ai, and I played around with it, you play around with it a little bit to get the format, context right and the bolding, but essentially it pulls out the points you wanna make, a lot of them already
mm,
pre-made, and I just
mm,
touch it up a little bit and then I upload.
yeah,
It's really nice.
and you edit it in a way where it cancels the gas too. It's just, like, really un-PC stuff.
On PC stuff, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so so you're great. Do you think it's underrated even for sales?
Yeah, I think I think pretty much AI in general is underrated.
100%. I think the implications for it long term, like really long term,
Mm,
will allow a lot of human creativity to blossom and flourish
yeah.
because it'll just free up time from like the mundane tasks and the minute details that so you can focus on more big picture
Yeah,
strategy.
as a strategy, experiences actually living life rather than just being like, "Oh, I need to edit a video," and waste, like, freaking 80 hours, like, doing that, right?
Yeah.
You know? So, I'm really excited for AI, like, honestly, like, it's kinda cool, and we're seeing creativity come out in weird ways. MKBHD just launched a video about, like, how how this song was created by AI, but it sounds exactly like Jay-Z.
No,
Exactly. Same
I
mannerisms and
heard
all
about
that.
that. It was a guest feature, right? But it was created by the AI?
Yeah, it is crazy. And, like,
That is wild.
I've been watching these gaming videos of, like, Obama, like, Trump, and Biden, like, being like like, playing GeoGuessr or some absurd type of thing, or they're
Yep,
playing Call of Duty and stuff. It's
yep,
really, really funny, and I'm just, like, really enjoying the creativity of AI
of
coming out.
AI. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be very interested to see how it progresses over the next few years and the next coming months. Yeah, with that, we've been recording for almost this is my first 2 hour or hour
Is
no, 2 hour podcast.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
Cool.
dude, we've been talking for 2 hours, dude. Like, this is my first 2 hour podcast, but I didn't feel like it though. I feel like we still have so much more we could cover, right? I don't know if you
Yeah.
feel the same way.
'Cause I can be expressive and stuff, and I know how to tell stories, I know how, like, hot takes work and stuff.
Yeah,
So there's
yeah.
just, like, so much I could share, but it's really interesting. But I'm kinda curious, like, if anybody makes it to this, like, timestamp, like, I'm kinda curious, what are some of the things that people are curious about that we could talk about? I'm really curious about that.
At this point, dude, if I were listening to a podcast at this point in the conversation, man, I would be wanting to hear about like personal, real deep personal relationship stuff, like stuff that you wouldn't get to hear anywhere else. In the first 15 minutes, you would expect
Yeah,
to get that deep. It's like the reason people listen to a Joe Rogan podcast. You want to be taken onto a journey of self
journey.
discovery, of deep diving into a specific, very deep dive into a very specific pillar of a topic, of a domain of
Mm,
expertise, something that you're very much an expert in or just have a lot of personal experience in, or just hot takes,
yeah.
just hot
Like
takes.
like dating your fans, dating your intern. No, I didn't
Shut
do
up, shut up, don't do that, bro.
that. Norman, you want to tell me about that?
Please, don't do that, gonna be canceled, man.
Just kidding. Norman hasn't done any of that.
Last few questions before we close out here.
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to plug?
So something, it's really funny. People always talking about plugging stuff. Oh, buy my course, buy my coaching. Like, dude, I keep it very simple. Like, the only
No.
thing I want is like, dude, if you feel like we'd be good friends, you want to chop it up, you can just follow me. All my links, everything from my business to my Instagram to my YouTube is on refugeehustle.com/links. So you can just follow me there and
Yep.
everything else will be organic. I'll let the funnels do its thing. No, I'm just kidding.
And everything will be linked in the show notes and in
Yeah.
the comments, whatever, in the about description. Yeah, don't worry about that. Sounds good to hear. Last question before we close out. Big question. How do you want to be remembered?
As man, that's such a big question. I wish I knew that. I wish I knew the top.
That's why I prefaced it. I gave some pause for that.
Yeah. There's a few things come to mind, but I
Mhm,
know the biggest one. Like there's a part of me that's like, oh, this guy said the truth. This guy was a pharmacist.
mhm.
I don't really care about any of that. I want to be remembered as being like a really good online friend. That person who like you could really connect to. That it was such a parasocial relationship that it felt real. Because in my mind, it is kind of real. Like that's why I do YouTube.
Mm,
Because I can create these parasocial relationships at scale. And if
mm.
we ever get to meet each other half the time, there's some weirdos, by the way, but half the time it just felt so natural, right? And that's happened with like my dating life, my best friends. I met all these people through YouTube. And so yeah, just as a really, really good friend.
Man, that's so
IRL,
powerful.
IRL and online.
You just wanna have good relationships with the people closest to you.
Yeah. I'll There's one thing I have to mention is like, dude, there's one person I really look up to. I met him at Vanessa Lau's mastermind. His
Mhm.
name is George Bryant, and he always says relationships beat algorithms. And ever since that inception of that idea, I can't stop thinking about that.
Can you
Right?
expand on that idea?
People are so focused on like, how do I build the right funnel to convince people to buy my crap, Or how do I edit this? It's like, dude, honestly, at the end of the day, none of that really matters if you think about it, right?
Mm,
It's like people connecting to people, focusing like on building the connection through
mm,
all that. And so that's why it relates to me because I stopped even in sales or anything like that. I don't even focus on like, so someone asked me, why should I work with you? I was like, I honestly don't think you should work with me. I appreciate the eagerness, but like I appreciate the eagerness to work with us, but I'd really like a longer discussion first to see if we can even help in the first place and get to know each other too. Like,
mhm.
how's that sound? And they're
If it's
like,
the
oh,
right fit.
even fit isn't, I don't even use the word fit anymore. Very like consulting, like term type of thing. But it's
Mm,
like building an initial relationship. You know right away whether like, oh, this person's a dick or this person is actually really cool. We could like honestly chop it up like for hours and hours and hours.
yeah.
That's the one thing I think about all the time when it comes to content creation, sales, like anything, any human social dynamic. Like I think about creating a relationship first. Same with like dating. People put too much focus on like, oh my God, this bugs me. This bugs me the out. It's like, dude, I hope she likes me. I hope that I go on the second date. I'm like, dude, why don't you just like take all the, like, you're so concerned about like people sleeping with you and stuff. I'm like, just focus on getting along first. Okay. That's the first thing. Just build a relationship, just connect.
Connect. Yeah.
When I focus on that, everything else happens.
Man, that's so powerful. I agree 100%. Everything else comes once you just focus on the person actually in front of you and nothing else and the relationship that you can build and the connection you can build with that person.
Yeah.
Hard agree. Everything else falls into place, and what will be. The people meant to stay in your life will stay in your life. The people meant to pass through and teach you a lesson, give you an experience, bring an emotion out of you. Those people will come too, and this too shall pass.
Even if it's your intern hitting on you. Yes, you're
All right, with that, now it's Kevin Yee. Y'all go follow him on social media at what is it?
Oh, what? My Instagram or all
Yeah,
my
your
links?
Instagram. Yeah, yeah,
My
Instagram.
Instagram?
We'll link.
Actually, all of them are under refugeehustle.com/links.
There you
So
go.
it has all my links. Yeah.
Fantastic, Kevin. Always a pleasure. Glad we can finally have a long format discussion and see each other talk in person.
Yeah. It's really dope. Thank you so much for asking really great questions, sharing my story out there, and just taking time to chop it up and connect, man. Really
Oh,
appreciate it.
yeah. No, absolutely, man. It's been a pleasure. Again, I look up to you a lot, man.
Cool. Thank you, man.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.